Hello everyone, this is a new video for me about my technique to retrieve broken instruments. I decided to translate this one in English, and this is the case referred by a dentist who broke a file near the apex of the MB root, MB canal, MB1 canal in this tooth number 26. So I'm just gonna start in this accelerated portion of the video by showing the pre-endo build-up and what you need to do. So this is the tooth. I'm not really looking at the pulpal floor right now, just looking at the decay we still have, the caries. So I'm just going to remove that with a low speed handpiece. And I've accelerated that bit. We want, before starting the endodontic treatment, we want clean dentin, white dentin, hard dentin. We don't want anything soft, anything too brownish in most cases. We really want decay-free dentin. And here we go. I had to change my rubber dam setup because it was going to be too low and I wouldn't get proper isolation. So this way I can get good and dry, a good and dry tooth to do my build-up. My build-up is there to last, so the referring dentist can use it later on. So I want it to be done in proper conditions. So here I apply the bond, and then I use G-Ainyo, I don't know how you pronounce that in English, from GC. I like it pretty much because it becomes quite hard and mechanically it seems quite strong. And here we go. Pre-endo buildup is done, and now I can get started. So first I'm going to instrument the isthmuses that you can see here on the distal, and this is using an ED15 from Woodpecker. I love the Woodpecker brand for their ultrasonics because, well, they come really cheap and they're really good ultrasonic tips. So I use it without spray so I can see what I'm doing. Now I'm gonna start looking for the MB2 canal. It's very likely to be there. Basically what you need to do to find it is you follow the isthmus or the line you see going palatally from the MB1, and it should be at the extremity of that. Okay, this is a 1504 file from Bondent. I love this file. As you can see, you're gonna see it work. So it's gonna engage in the MB2. The first part of the MB2 is quite horizontal, so your file is gonna have quite a hard time to progress in the canal. You have to put it at quite an angle to get in, and then once you reach the vertical part, it's going to advance quite easily. So I'm using it at 500 RPMs in a mode called ATR. I use mainly the Motopex from Woodpecker. It's a fantastic handpiece for endodontics, and I'm going to try to reach the apex directly. This file is quite strong and you don't need much it's not going to break that easily. So I'm going to try to reach the apex, but I won't quite get there, and it's very likely that the MB2 joins the MB1. It happens quite often, and then I'll be stuck with the file that's broken in the MB1, so I won't be able to reach the apex straight away. So this is an Erie Flex from Produits Dentaires. I love this little tip to irrigate because it's in a 3004 and you can reach the apex once you've done your preparation. And this is an eddy from VDW just to activate the solutions, the irrigants. So I'm removing all debris and then I'll try to progress a bit further. I'm sorry for the lighting, it's a new setup, so I'm getting used to it. The lighting might change during the video, but I'm pretty happy with how well we can see what's going on. I'm just rinsing everything, making sure everything's clean. You don't want to push too much bacteria down the canals. So once you've located your canals, it's a good idea to clean the pulp chamber and everything before going further. I'm trying to get to the tip, to the apex, but I won't quite get there. I get quite low in the canal, but I can't reach the apex. The Motopex has an integrated apex locator, so well, you'll see it when I instrument the other canals. You'll see it, the file going backwards once we reach the apex. So as I said, in the MB2 I'm not quite reaching the apex. In the MB1 I'm stuck there, can't advance very much. That's very likely because of the broken file. What you need to, there I'm gonna get my working length for the distal, which is gonna give me a rough idea of what I should expect in the mesial. Same thing for the palatal. What you're gonna be looking for when you try to remove a file is how long it is. If it's too long, it's going to be quite hard. Even if you unscrew it, if you free it a little bit, it's going to be quite hard to get it to come back up in one piece. So what's usually going to happen, either you need to grab it with a pen or a lasso, or you need to break it in half so it can come back up and it'll be able to pass the curvature. So this is the MB1. I'm using the Irriflex to dry the canals so I can see what's going on. I think I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. There you go. And we can very clearly see the curvature of the canal going into the palatal direction. I know the file should be visible. I'm not too far from where the head of the file is, so it should be visible in a little bit. What you want to do is see the head of the instrument. If you're under loop magnification or microscope or even naked eye, as long as you can see the tip of the file, the head of the file, the upper portion of the file, then it's 90% of the job done. So this is what we have right now, and this is the root on the cervical part, the outline of the root on the cervical part. Now this is where the outline of the roots at the what we can see at the canal level. This was the direction of the canals that I expect, and this is where I expect my file to be. And in green is the safe zone. This is where you're going to be able to safely instrument without having any trouble. And here in red is what I'm going to have to remove to be able to see the file. So I'm using still the ED15 from Woodpecker. I'm going to remove that red portion we saw last to try to see the file in the canal after the curvature. You always want to stick in the safe zone. So if you stick in that zone, you know you're not going to perforate, because it has to be, you have to be in the root at that point. So there's no way you're going to perforate as long as you stay in that green zone I just showed. And you're going to be bothered by the debris that are going to obstruct your view, so you want to remove the debris quite often so you can hope to see the file. So here we don't see it. I dry the canal. I've sped up the portions where I just removed debris. So you just rinse and activate and aspirate the liquid afterwards. I'm still going to instrument the zone I showed you in red until I can see the file. Still an ED15. This is pretty much my technique. You'll see why in a little bit. It's very much inspired by Mr. Terrauchi's technique. I went to a conference and he explained quite a lot of stuff, put words on it, and he's a great practitioner. So I still can't see it, even with my ED15, which is about 15 millimeters long. It's going to be a little bit short, and also it's a little bit thick, so when you go down the canal you don't want to enlarge it too much to not fragilize the tooth. And so I'm going to switch to my own method. This is a C+ file on an ando handle, and the good thing about it is you can pre-bend it, and it's much thinner than any ultrasonic tip you could use. So you put it on an ando handle, you pre-curve it in the direction you think the canal is going to go, and then my nurse is just going to come and use the ultrasonic tip on its side. And here I'm just trying to break the curvature a little bit to soften it so I can hope to see the file. I'm not trying to vibrate the file, I'm just trying to see it for now. So I'm working on the dentin. When you have a file, you always want to take the inner portion of the curvature it's broken in, not the outer portion, and you want to free it from the inner side of the curvature, and then it's going to be able to come up. So you want to take the inside of the curvature, which is why I pre-bent it so much. And here, as you can see, I'm pulling. I'm not using any pressure, I'm just pulling on it, just to work and to remove dentin that's obstructing the view. Okay, and this is my nurse using the ultrasonic tip on my file, and it's just going to work as any other ultrasonic tip. It's just much thinner, and it doesn't break as much as these ultrasonic files we find on the market. They break way too much. You can't pre-bend them. It's not as good at all. So again, we have debris. I'm just going to remove the debris. Try it up. There you go. And now we can see the file. Okay, so now we've done 90% of the job. We've been able to visualize the file. We can see it in the canal. And there you go. So that's the upper portion of the file. There you go. So this is our canal and the file. What you're going to want to do is remove it on a half circle on the inside of the curvature. So this green bit I have to remove around the file on about 1/3 of its length. Okay, so about, I'd say here, 2 to 3 millimeters, and I need to free it in a half circle, a little bit more than that actually, and that way it's not going to be screwed anymore, and you just need to vibrate it and it should come up. So here I'm still using my C+ file. This is a 15 C+ file from Dentsply on my ando handle from Venta Ando if you're looking for it. And my nurse is still going to apply the ultrasonics on its side to make it vibrate. And again, here I'm trying to remove dentin. I'm not trying to vibrate the instrument yet. If you vibrate it too much, the instrument will break in half with the tip still screwed in. And if the tip is still screwed in, and you won't be able to see it, you're going to have to resort to surgery to remove that file. Because the bypass is going to be very hard. So for now, I'm just working on the dentin, trying to remove dentin around the file, trying to enlarge the canal in that portion of the file, that portion of the file, so that it's a bit more free and we have a chance of it coming back up. Okay, this is to remove debris. So now when you use this instrument, you're going to create debris around the file and it can keep it stuck. So you want to remove debris. Here again, I'm just working on the dentin, not applying too much pressure. I don't want to work on the instrument just yet. You have to be patient with these things. Take your time. Stay inside of the curvature. That prevents false roots, false canals, and that prevents your instrument from breaking. If you bypass from the outside, once you're gonna try to make it come back up, your file is gonna block it in. So you really want to take the inside. Now we rinse and we try again. We should be able to see it better. And there we go. As you can see, I've slowed it down, that last portion. You can see that when I'm in the MB2, the suction is removing the irrigant from the MB1 as well, so they do join. So now this is the file, and we can roughly see in which direction it's going. So you want to stay in the inside. You really don't want to take the outside. Still in the safe zone. You gotta think about your safe zones. Otherwise you're gonna strip your canal and it's harder to deal with. It's not that much of a catastrophe, but if you can avoid it, please do. So still working on the dentin, trying to free at least around 1/3 of the total length of the instrument, so about 2 to 3 millimeters. You can see my file going in deeper than before. This is what's going to happen very often when you use a thin ultrasonic tip on a C+ file. It's going to break at that point. It's not screwed in, so it's very easy to remove. It's not a big deal. Just remove it, and now I'm working apically, and there you see it. It's come back up. So once you're done freeing it, you put some irrigant in. The best thing to put is EDTA. Hypochlorite makes it a little bit harder for the instrument to come up. Here, I'm not that happy because I don't think I have the tip of the instrument. And in fact, I don't. As you can see, it finishes off in a very flat fashion, and here I can't go further with my file, so I know the tip of the file is probably still stuck in there. So this is a mishap that can happen. You see here that I still have about 2 millimeters, maybe 1.5 millimeter of the file stuck in the canal. So I'm trying to bypass it, still sticking to the inside, but here were not seeing. You're just relying on your tactile sense, trying to free it. There's a pretty good chance I've unscrewed it quite a bit before by vibrating the file. And I couldn't get through, so I'm using a 10+C file, hand file, making sure I'm bypassing it completely, which I just did. And now I'm going to use the same technique but without my nurse, and gently put apical pressure progressing in the canal and doing about 2 to 3 millimeter movements up and down, and hopefully it'll come up. Usually it does. Using a sonic handpiece will give you more amplitude, will give your file more amplitude at the tip, and could remove much easier the file that's lodged in the canal on this side. Here I just used my ultrasonic tip because I thought it would be enough. And there we go. We saw it come up. I have my doubts. I don't see it now, so I'm having doubts as to whether it did come up. Here is a very slow speed and zoomed in image of it. And there you can see go in and go into the distal. But this happens a lot. And this is in real time when I actually saw it. So you see it there in the distal. You have to be cautious. You don't want to push it down in the distal. So I'm using the ear reflex to block the distal canal and then suctioning. And there you have it. Removed. Now it's not there anymore. And we're just going to finish the root canal treatment. So this is a 1504 file. Still the same one as before. And it seems to be going into a canal now. And there we go. We saw it come back up. So I've reached the apex. Same thing in the MB1. Okay, now this is a 2504 file. And we're gonna make it to the apex as well. 2504 in all canals. Palatal as well. I'm not too happy it didn't remove enough dentin apically, so I'm using a 4002 to finish my palatal apex. It's going to work for about 2 to 3 millimeters and remove dentin. And now I'm satisfied, so I just do my disinfection protocol. So hypochlorite and then EDTA 17%. You activate both of them. And hypochlorite again. This is EDTA. And as you can see, they do join. It's quite visible there. So you don't want to remove too much dentin. You don't want to fragilize the tooth to remove the file. When you have a file so apical, it's always going to be whether you can remove it without damaging too much the root or going for surgery straight away. So there, the curvature wasn't too big. I was pretty sure I could see the file without removing too much dentin, and well, I just went with it. If I didn't see the file, or if I couldn't remove the broken fragment afterwards, I would have went for surgery. The patient was warned that this could be an option. And there we go. Clean tooth. I'm going to fill it up. I use BioRoot from Septodont. And then gutter cones. hydraulic condensation. So I put it in with a Lancelo. You use it at low speed, around 1.2, 1.5 thousand RPMs. You want it to stay passive. You don't want to feel the walls of the canals. You don't want to feel it screw in. And you should stay there for about 5 seconds to remove any bubbles and to have them come up nice and slow. And there we go. And since they join, when you fill up the MB1, it goes back up in the MB2. Don't hesitate to put quite a lot in. It's much cheaper than any other alternative bioceramic sealers, and it's much purer as well, because it's a liquid and powder. You have to mix it yourself, but they don't need any additives to make it set. It's quite useful. As you can see, I'm not using the gutter cones that correspond to my last file. I usually pick 2 sides bigger when I'm prepping in 4% and 1 size bigger in 6%. I just want the cone to stay about 1 to 2 millimeters away from the apex, a little bit short from the apex. I don't want it too long. I like the idea of having only bioceramic sealer at the tip of the root, at the apex, for about 1 millimeter, which shouldn't create any problems for root canal treatment, but should be a bit more leak free. And to clean, so this is when you apply hydraulic condensation. Basically, you just heat the gutter for about 2 to 3 millimeters, and then with a plugger, push it in. It's gonna create a plug of gutter, and you can apply quite a lot of pressure on the rest of the canal and push your bioceramic sealer further. Good thing about BC sealers is that they're hydrophilic, and you just need to rinse your pulp chamber to get it cleaned up. Very easy to do, very fast, very efficient. Just make sure I cut the gutter for it to stay in the canals. You don't want any gutter pucker in the pulp chamber. Doesn't bond to dentin, so you want to keep as much surface as possible for bonding to prevent any leaks from happening as much as possible. For example, I have a bit too much gutter packer. I like being about 2 to 3 millimeters under the entry of the canal. And voila. So when you take your X-ray, your final X-ray, if you find your cement isn't dense enough, you just heat your gutter packer a little bit more and apply more pressure with your plugger, and there you should have a nice and dense material, nice and dense cement in the canals. So there you just rinse the pulp chamber, and you should be ready to go to bond. Nice and clean, nice and dry. So this is my bonding protocol. Very simple. Etch, Scotch bond universal, and the G-annual, I don't know how you pronounce that. G-annual flow universal. There we go. This is not a composite that's supposed to stay there. The referring dentist will then place a crown or an onlay on the tooth in about 2 weeks. And all's fine. There we go. I just polished that. And this is the final x-ray. The sinus is projecting on my x-ray, but there you have it. Thanks for watching, and I'll try to post another one about file removal pretty soon. Have a good day.